flip into the night, the Confederates pulls back a little bit in the hopes that, hey, maybe he can avoid the automatic failure because, among other things, he didn't take any orders from Bragg. In fact, he took a distorted. Got him and Hardy together now back at the Army headquarters to discuss matters some more, because Polk didn't think it was a good idea to defend here. He thinks we should go somewhere else. And we may have to if we are faced with a corps retreat. If we start pulling back to here, we may have to pull both units out and try to find somewhere else to be, which is the game starts becoming really kind of unhinged. Now, it's already unhinged from history in the sense that doing this battle early, you don't have the whole kind of amazing Confederate surprise attack, and there's no real way to simulate something like that within this system, because except by preset orders, preset conditions. I don't remember what the scenario has in this. So do they specify which way, say, McCook is facing? I saw some discussion about that. He's my left, no, my right. Yeah, they don't specify his facing there. So, it's let's see, defend roughly north to south facing east. I think that's the factor there, is that he's got orders to face the wrong way. Let's see where the rosette is. The rosette's here, so east is going to be that way, and he ends up getting kind of cut from behind or whatever. There's no way to have that happen in this game. In the CWB series. The only way it can happen is if there's specific rules for the scenario, like here where they give facing by the units, and I don't feel like that really takes much into account nicely. Or if you have, Richard Berg wrote some random events, no surprise there, to attach to CWB games. And I don't remember if he covered this one. I know he covered some of the earlier ones. I don't think I've ever played with him, or if I have, only a little bit, maybe once or twice over the course of all my CWB plays. They feel like just a little too much for the system to me. But you could certainly do something like that in a situation like this. What you can't do is, this can't even happen due to the loose cannon orders, because those can only really affect you for a turn. Like, you can order somebody to move in a direction or defend a certain location or something for one turn. That's it. So they don't give you that flexibility either, which I've always seen as kind of a missed opportunity with this series. All right, well, we're on to the Union, and we'll see if they might as well do it right off the bat. Let's see what we got here. The only thing we have that has to deal with anything is that left wing. They took some fire. Wow, no, right wing. Oh, okay. They took some fire. They have no problems, except they need like a 6 because it's nighttime. Let's see if we roll anything. Yeah, they're fine. So they're going to keep coming. Through a bunch of the effects of night. I think I forgot a couple. One was there's column shifts against you when you fire. So you're going to be taking less damage, less chances of a straggler or morale check. And another is, this is probably the biggest one, you have an advantage on the straggler recovery table, which means you really do not want your units engaged or close to engaged. For example, this little Confederate bulge here presents a bit of a problem, because the Union's got to reposition wings to take advantage of this, whereas the Confederates can just swap units in and out of the front line there and let some people rest for half the night if they get their units completely rested. That makes for a pain in the ass. Remember what I said in the first video, geez, I really like this situation where it's all clean and I don't have to really do anything. Well, usually at nighttime there's no fighting going on, but there's a bunch of fiddling and mechanical actions going on around the straggler recovery. Much of it the die rolls, but some of it also this kind of, oh, can I swap units in and out? So for example, the center core will eventually recover some of these units perhaps and move them into the front line so that the other units can come out. That's just some of the kind of annoyances of the whole thing. We have the Union managed to push the Confederates back here, though, and somebody routed. And we also had the Morton Pioneers beginning to engage up on Wayne's Hill. So now they'll be checking their attack stoppage. And for that matter, the PCAV has to worry too, but it doesn't until it actually starts taking, until it's actually racked. And then it's a corps of one division. And remember, the night penalty doesn't affect the defender. So it's going to be a busier night than I usually like for. Well, Polk couldn't get orders. Hard to do to get orders on the turn that you're issued them. So since he's been under fire, he fell back. Took straggle results. Now straggling's worse at night. Makes sense, especially with the march. And I also pulled Hardy's forces back. Now Hardy did not undergo a retreat. He's back to here, but he has no orders. What the hell? He can just, fall back. He doesn't have anything he has to try to defend. And his position was becoming untenable. Even with defensive orders, I might have been, depending on how they were worded, forced to fall back in that manner. Anyway, we have a much, much tighter little position here. With Polk's headquarters way back here, I may be able to shift some forces over to anchor the other side of the river, just in case Morton's troops start becoming a problem there. So this may end up being a fight happening with the river dividing the lines. I'm not sure. I think the Union wants to use the night to rest as much as they can. Kind of hoping for a core failure on this right wing so that it doesn't just keep moving. I've already disrupted the Confederate ability to rally overnight, as it were, quite a bit, especially Polk, who took some significant hits. Pretty much 2 stragglers on most of the units here, which is going to be harder to recover, although he's got, a lot of night left. I don't expect this attack to do much of value, so I'd rather it end. So the Union pushes forward into, through the darkness, in the woods, in the cold, towards the Confederate camps, leaving their routed behind, unable to follow. And over here, Morton and the Cav have managed to, it's pretty easy with 2 units to get an enfilade shot, especially if one could mount up and then dismount. Cav has some mobility here in their dragoon fashion. It costs them 3 movement points to mount and dismount. Well, that still leaves them 6 movement points that they can spend. So if they're in fairly good terrain, they've got a little bit more movement than an infantry unit would, I think. Yeah, not really. You still have 6 movement points, right? So yeah, that doesn't help much. But with 2 units, you can pretty much catch a single unit alone pretty easily if it doesn't have extended lines. Now this poor thing can't anymore. It's down to C size. And it's in a lot of trouble. It's not where it wants to be. It wants to be back here by its orders now. Probably should have fallen back last turn, but I was stupid. Confederates had been able to pull back far enough that they could recuperate for a turn, but now the Union's still pressing on. That right wing continuing its attack. Morton's command stopped. They didn't even take Wayne's Hill. No real point to it now. With Breckinridge curving around, he's already done the job that was desired. But it was because of an attack failure. So now Rosecrans has kind of both sides have this question in their mind, right? Do you do something about the current situation? Do you want to move troops? As the Union pushes Hardy's command so that it's going to have to not make straggler checks, not make straggler recovery checks, it becomes more and more desirable to maybe pull back across the river. And for the Confederates, for Polk's Confederates, he doesn't really want to stand there, but he may not have much choice. He's currently got orders awaiting that we're to defend the bend still. That doesn't look like much of an option. He's probably going to not get a chance to undertake those. He's got this turn, which he received his first fire. Next turn and the turn after. If he doesn't receive the orders in either of those turns, he's out of there again. And he doesn't have a lot of room to run. The real question is, where do you go with him? Do you push him back this way or maybe over this way to help, I don't know, defend those locations? Who the hell knows? It's not like there's really any points over here except at the bridge crossing and at Wayne's Hill. Wayne's Hill looks like a doable, I hate that word, but a doable objective for even a beaten up unit. Beyond that, though, one of the big terrain features that's hindered the Union's ability to coordinate has been this road. Well, now they've gotten control of that, so they can swing mainly their wagons up and down it for ammo supply. They had a lot of trouble cutting them through the woods here, especially the Army, which can't go off the road at all. For the Union, they've got kind of the question of, well, do you want to send the left wing around here and try to bottle the Confederates up here and just crush them? Because they're in a horrible position right now. But that left wing is really taking advantage of the night. As of right now, Rosecrans isn't stacked with anybody. He's just sitting off on his own. But that probably would be the best move. Except for the fact that, geez, if I could get my troops some rest. But trapping the entire Confederate army in that little river bend there and making it hard for them to get across, that's just too much to ignore. We'll see if Rosecrans or me remembers that in the morning and writes any orders for it. Right, well, Hardee accepts orders to go up and position himself near Wayne's Hill. Polk, this was his second turn. I think, if he receives fire, this will be his second turn. We'll see if he does or not, because we don't know if the Union's going to move forward. But he pulled back, covered the entire river bend. I'd like to keep that bend, I guess. I'm not sure. The other side of the map, there's so little of interest on it. But being hemmed in here, that's not terribly interesting either. What I probably need to do is lift up, come around, and move along one of these roads. I'm not quite sure how to facilitate an attack at this point. I have to kind of wait until morning to plan that, as to see at least where the Union stops moving. That much I'd want to see. Turns out to a kind of interesting situation, because this one Union command, which was in fair condition, it has some definite damage on the unit that was in perfect condition, the 3-2R or the 2R division under Johnson. But most of the rest of it has been able to find time to take care of its recovery. The 1R, one of their units, is actually engaged vaguely at times. Anyway, maybe this one has managed to really disrupt the ability of the Confederates to rest tonight. Well, the other two wings, now the center's a very weak wing, have been able to rest for the Union, and you can see we're recovering. It's not perfect yet, but there's still half a night left. If we can keep pressure on the Confederates, they may be in no position to fight tomorrow, basically. you can see here, especially Hardy's command is just in terrible shape. And Polk is beginning to take some losses of significance. His attack failed, if you remember, early on, so he didn't take the kind of losses that Hardy took. So, after the Confederate side of the 10 p.m. turn, still, I got one straggler recovery and some morale improvement to do, but Hardy's corps is moving over into its position where it's ordered to do so. Great. Polk is fleeing. This feels like if I had sort of the army route rules of any sort in the game, we're there. Not only have I lost any opportunity for an attack across the river, but I'm not sure I can hold the position across the river. I haven't gotten any sleep. I haven't been able to rest my army. I also there's little advantage to trying to hold this position across here because the Union can cross over here near McFadden's, and there's other roads across where they can threaten the entire Confederate Army of Tennessee in this position. If I had the Army panic rules, I would expect them. This scenario doesn't. This game came out after they had removed the idea completely, and this obviously they didn't do the effort to support that since the rule was even removed. But this is definitely the kind of situation where you'd say, you know, Bragg is going to get out of here. I'm going to play out a little bit more, watch what happens overnight. But my guess is with the Union, they're not going to try to position themselves for an attack. They're going to recover their strength as much as they can. Well, once the right wing stops, it may continue an attack into Polk some more. But there's another issue here. I'm missing what I'd need for a map here to fight the battle that is developing here. Now, it's funny because I've played this a number of times with the campaign, and I've never played the historical scenario. The campaign always starts early. I found that the Confederate attack early fails. What worked so well with the historical attack is something that you can't do in this game without, and I said you can't do it at all. I was actually lying there. There is an optional rule that allows it fairly easily given the amount of woods here, which is the hidden movement rules. The hidden movement rules could allow you to slip behind an enemy unit and pop up all at once. The enemy doesn't know where you are. You're cutting down along Franklin Road and swing up behind the Union command. I don't know if I can in any way simulate that, but that initial attack made with the intention of trying to take on only, say, half the army, or a little more than half, maybe not two-thirds of the corps, but the right wing and left wing are the big parts, so it's not much less than half. Seems like a good idea, but it all depends upon when the wings come in. All right. And we finally got that 6 or lower. I think at some point I had said 6 was the target number. It's actually not. It's a -3 to the die roll made at night, which would have meant a 7 because McCook's so damn good. Anyway, his wings stopped. One unit, this one was shaken, moved forward, and of course the routed unit. They're recovering now. And, well, we'll start the move back. This guy's got a problem. He's got to get back in command as well as get rid of that disorganized marker. Now, the disorganized will go away automatically in 2 turns, but he's got to find his way back up to within range of Johnson in order to get... Forgot to do my Confederates. I had a little break and it becomes disjointed. I have to take care of some of that. But anyway, you know, it's just a question of whether or not I want to keep fighting this out at this point. I don't see a hell of a lot of point to it, but I may, just because, I don't know. It's Friday. Might be a good time to call it. I was seeing this one would take me throughout the weekend and maybe next week, but I'm not so sure that's really the case given the condition the Confederate Army's in. I think they'll probably pull out, in part due to my own schedule. As we push on until the 1 a.m. turn, I realize I've been kind of screwing up mixing the two command systems from Series 3 rules and the earlier rules, allowing Army commanders to issue orders in their headquarters to a commander, to a corps commander essentially, or wing in the case of the Union. I don't think it's had much effect. You're only allowed to go off and talk to one person with an in-person verbal order. It can't be done from your headquarters. If you want to do an order from your headquarters, it's done from the headquarters as a written or oral order, aid order, to the headquarters that you're sending it to. Otherwise, you have to go personally and visit. Something disturbs me a little bit about that. I understand the reason for it, but I'm going to probably continue with what I'm doing, allowing a commander to come talk to you. I also didn't really bother with Bragg having to issue the orders to his army to move it. You know, I want to avoid the excesses that are possible with the old 2.1 etc. versions of the rules, but I don't really care too much about getting all the I's dotted and T's crossed, as it were. Anyway, what we've got is the Confederates continuing to straggle recovery for the most part with Hardee's unit, although they've formed up a little bit. If we look over here, you can see they've formed up some of their units there. Those are guys who are not needing straggler recovery, and meanwhile, Polk's Corps is still sort of moving its way into place, so it doesn't get any. For the Union, the left wing is shifting its way across McFadden's Ford. Now, historically, this is actually not too far from what happened. After the first day of fighting, the Union ends up crossing the Stones River and positioning itself and then just sitting there. I'm not sure whether or not that makes a lot of sense. And then Bragg orders Breckinridge to launch an attack on his own on the second day of January or something along those lines. Again, I haven't paid much attention to looking. I read some stuff online, but I read terribly off a computer screen. So that's, and it didn't look terribly interesting, actually. That's where we kind of are, is hey, does Bragg want to pull out of this or not? That's still the question I'm sitting on. Now, he has three wrecked brigades. He doesn't really know what the Union has. The Union has 2 wrecked brigades from the center wing. Now, I may be swinging Thompson's center around that way with the big outflank and moving the right wing forward. That might be my main goal here, to try to just surround the units. There's not enough map, though, to fight out a battle if Bragg wants to withdraw. So I'm still kind of torn whether or not I want to just keep going with this or call it a battle, because it is largely determined unless the Union makes a really terrible attack somehow. They've gained the terrain. The only question is their army in good enough shape to move forward? The center wing is not. The rest of it, well, the left wing's not in great shape either. So I really don't know. I may position it here as kind of an anvil or something, but then what do I use as the hammer? The right wing? It's got a painful crossing if it makes it. But maybe it'll taunt the Confederates into moving. I don't know. We'll see where I end up. Whether I get bored just standing there staring at each other for a while. Well, I've run through a few hours here in the night. All kind of at once. I've been screwing around, not playing at all. Not doing much of anything, to tell you the truth, this weekend. Anyway, Union's gotten their left wing over here. Rosecrans threw some orders to the center wing to head up this way and to take the right, essentially. I kind of want to see what develops before I move forward with him, but Bragg is having trouble coming up with any idea for the battle. Like I said, I've been, debating, hey, should I just call this? Should I just pull off the field? And one of the reasons I'm not is I don't have enough excitement to play anything else. And this is still going. It's hard for me to bail from something. The two armies are both damaged. Is there room for another battle? I don't know. But it can't be much of one. I've seen what wrecked armies like this do when they clash together. They don't have a lot of room left. Whose hands is it in if there is going to be another day of battle? I'm not sure. The Union seems to have some plan of swinging into position and getting kind of an attempt to try to pocket the Confederates, but I don't have room off the map for that to ever be possible to actually represent. This map is too small to handle some kind of widespread action going across the river. There's a lot of room down here where the main fighting happened, but not a lot for a second day of fighting up here. Beyond that, well, why are you sticking around, Bragg? If you don't have an intention to attack, what's going on exactly? Well, he's holding some threat on some hexes that have at least some value to the Union. But given that he's lost most of the map, that he's cornered over in this one little hill, unless he's going to break out, he can't win. So he might as well withdraw. There's no real advantage to trying to hold this position without trying to enforce some kind of strength elsewhere on the board. Even over here or something, which obviously isn't that important. Another kind of weird thing is there's a number of decent roads coming through here. The Wilkerson, Franklin, and Salem roads. Well, Wilkerson and Salem are pikes, but they're primary roads. I could understand them being major goals, but they're not really. The major goal, well, over here, this is part of the Nashville pike, but these others have importance in the mid area of the game, but not much at the river crossings themselves. It's as if they're not really that big an issue. As dawn breaks, Bragg decides to stick around. He's going to send Hardee's corps to set up a defensive line along the river lines, well, the river and the Lytle Creek, with one of his weaker units, presumably along the creek, because that doesn't look like where the attack's going to fall. His feeling is, look, if the Union's willing to attack him across the river and up here, he's got significant defensive bonuses. The problem, of course, is, Corus tack stoppage. If he ends up kind of bottled in against the edge of the map, our core defense stoppages are going to fling him off the map. And it's over then, because I don't have a map to play on. But I think the only problem with it is there are enough constraints to the map board that prevent the Union from, say, swinging around behind or whatever in an effective fashion. Oh well, that's always the case in a tactical game, isn't it? All right. At 7 a.m. turn, we have some additional Confederate cav streaming up to join the H Corps for whatever reason it might. Confederates are trying to get orders to get Hardee in his position defending here. And after Bragg recovers, he had to hang around for a turn for this turn. He's going to go talk to Polk about setting up a defensive line up here. He's hoping the Union will launch an attack. He doesn't really have much hope of an attack himself. The question, of course, is whether the Union really needs to. They've largely won the battle, but if they lose control of these bridges, that is actually a major factor. There's 6 points for them for controlling them. And there's another 3 points for him at Wayne's Hill. So there's kind of the, okay, look, you won largely. Let's chase the Confederates off this space. If they're not willing to just withdraw, we kind of have to, in my view, even if we've won the battle, if we just sit where we are. In terms of losses, I'm not absolutely certain. Both sides are pretty badly beaten up, but the Union only has 2 wrecked brigades, whereas the Confederates have 3 permanently wrecked brigades. Again, that's mainly a crapshoot. The big advantage here so far is the terrain held. The Union's picked up, things like the round forest here that are 3-3. They're expected to be both sides, right? Wilkerson's Pike here. I'd like to get some orders out to this cav. It's not really doing me any good right now, except maybe protecting where the B cav comes in, which will also be coming in from back here along this road. If any sizable force moves this way, this little picket isn't going to do me any good. If I was playing with hidden hidden movement and such not, these units would actually be doing me a lot of good by being here. They wouldn't be on the map for one thing, and they would allow me to detect movement going up Franklin Road. But by keeping them there, I'm reducing my own feeling that, hey, I shouldn't know if the Union Center Corps, which has got orders to go up here, is going to be heading that way. So it does kind of protect something that I can't see otherwise. Now, obviously, if the Union knows that this is here, they could skirt around it, but there's good lines of sights all here. I would have had to do that with a night move to be able to get there, and that's not a pleasant thing to do. I feel like I'm missing something, like night moves maybe have their attrition, and that I screwed that up completely. I'll ignore it if I did. Let's look at night is sort of the last thing in the rule book, and I haven't played a game. No, doesn't look like it. I haven't played a game that had an overnight part of it in a while for the series. He's mostly recovered overnight in terms of what they could. There's no stragglers left on the Confederates, and just one here on the Union side. So we're about as good as we're going to get. I'm awaiting the center to move. I've issued orders here to the left wing to start an attack. And, well, I'd kind of like the right wing to involve itself in the attack, but I want to try to time that to the center wing's attack. There's no way that I'm going to see what's going on over here from over here. I don't know. There's a line of sight limitation, basically, and I don't remember what it is, but it's got to be like 20 hexes or so. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that just seems too far to be able to coordinate in this case. So, I really do want the center units up into their place across here before the right wing moves. The left wing, well, I could have tried to delay it until the right wing moves, but that seems silly. So what I've done is I've set it orders for noon to launch its attack, and it's a complicated attack, swinging up and then down, with an attempt to trap the Confederates. And now we're really just waiting. Polk's waiting for his acceptance of orders, and I can move Bragg back to recharge next turn. Polk's awaiting his set of orders to kind of fill in the defense here and create a nice little perimeter. And the Union's awaiting the center to get moving, the left to take its orders for an attack. And at that point, Rosecrans has to issue orders to the right wing. This was 7:38. This was a move. This was a recharge turn, so he's able to give more orders on the following turn, I believe. This is the part I don't like about the version 3 rules, is they make it kind of complicated, and why I kind of bastardized them is they make it too complicated to remember when you can issue orders outside of your headquarters and when you can't. You still end up doing the same damn thing. It's just you can't do it as quickly. You got to stop back home and have a cup of tea or something. I've got one problem here, which has to do with the center wings orders that I've already written. He's only supposed to get to Lytle Creek, and that's sufficient for what I'm planning. That'll provide support for the right wing to make its attack. But now that the Confederates are beginning to align their defense, they could have set up defenses here or pulled back a little or whatever, and these wouldn't necessarily generate the kind of battle I'd want to see. In which case, when I see them deploy, I'd probably say, ah, shit, I gotta change Thomas's orders here, and either have to run out or send him orders that possibly would be an addendum. For example, once you get to Lytle Creek, here are your new orders, and he can't, even try to accept those until he looks like he's within an hour of there. That's all kind of bending and twisting the orders rules, but they really have to be. It's like somebody came up with a question over on Consim World. I'm sure many people have in the past. Hey, if I'm sending orders to someone and they're moving, shouldn't, I take into account that difference in movement? Well, yeah, but the rules don't state it. So, it depends on what you want to play. If you're playing these kind of things, explicitly by the rules, nah, you shouldn't. You shouldn't bother. And it might be easier not to bother. I know that I usually don't bother, but then again, I don't usually bother with written orders. I usually just walk over and tell them, all right, let's send this one up, because right now we're just waiting for the orders to start taking effect, really.